friends, welcome back. So today I'm bringing you guys another video, and this is going to be a tutorial on this look that I am wearing right here. I actually wasn't planning on filming this tutorial. I already uploaded a tutorial using the Subculture palette. I'll link it down below, and that was gonna be it for me. But I feel like I had to give it another shot on camera. I would say out of the 3 times that I used the palette, this time was definitely the hardest, and I ran into the most trouble this time. The first time, I mean, you'll see the tutorial. The second time, I used it in my favorites video, and I only used the shades New Wave and Fudge and All Star. So New Wave, Fudge, and All Star. And I had zero problems. But today, I feel like this green, it kind of did what it was doing for everybody else. So I guess that's kind of the most problematic shade in the palette. The color Untamed is the one that I used. I still don't feel like the palette is like so awful. I feel like there are some good shades in the palette and some bad shades in the palette. I actually do have another eyeshadow look very similar to this. It's not the same, but it's very similar, and I'll link it down below. It's using green shades and a pop in the center. I don't think I had a wing liner on in that video, but I'll link that video down below. You can see how blended that eye look came out, and I think I was using Makeup Geek eyeshadows. So if you want to compare this look versus that look, I hope that you can see clearly in this look where the issues were for me. Another thing I did want to say is I am kind of let down, or feeling kind of let down, by the way that Anastasia Beverly Hills is handling this. I do see that this is like the way that Norvina and Anastasia wanted the palette to be. They wanted it to be pure pigment. They wanted it to be exactly what it is. But I feel like if you have as many complaints as they do have, that maybe it should be handled in a different way. So my camera definitely died when I was in the middle of that intro. So I think that's a pretty good indicator that it's time for me to start the video. So if you guys want to see how I got this look, then please just keep on watching. Look who got a haircut. Look who got a haircut. You did. You did. Okay, so the first color I'm taking is the color Dawn in the palette, and I use this pretty much every single time that I use this palette just because I feel like it's such a good shade to blend other shades into no matter what colors you are using. So it's definitely one of my favorites in the palette. So I'm taking a G17 brush by Morphe, which is just a super duper fluffy brush, and just basically tossing this into the crease. It doesn't give too much definition or anything like that, but it does, you know, just add a little bit of color. And of course my eyes are already primed before I do this. My brows are done and my foundation is on like usual. With the same brush, I grabbed the color Edge, and you can see there's really not too many issues going on so far. I mean, we've only gone into the 2 colors, but so far everything is okay. And just as I suspected, like I said, before I used it for this tutorial, I had no problems with it, so I suspected that everything was going to be okay. But then you're going to see in just a second is when we start to run into some problems. I do also want to mention that Edge looks more of like a bright yellow in the pan, but it's more of like a mustard shade when you put it on the eye. I personally don't mind that, but I just want to mention that in case anybody is curious. Now I went into the color Destiny with a Pro Blending Fluff by Coastal Scents. You guys know I use this brush as my 217 dupe. 217 being by MAC. And this is basically where I start to run into some problems. You can start to see that there are some inconsistencies. It's a little bit more patchy, so I just went over it. And I would say after I went over it, it worked out a little bit better, but it was still hard to work with. But not anything that I think is too crazy. You can definitely see I am popping this color on the inner and outer corners, but you could definitely see on the inner corner is where there's a lot of patchiness, and directly into the crease. You'll also be able to see it on this eye as well. So these colors are not layering well at all. I think if you were to put color over primer, which is what I did originally with, you know, Edge and with Dawn, there's like no skipping, no patchiness. But then once you put it over another color, I guess because it's pigment, it starts to get a little bit patchy. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to explain as best as I can. I did go in with the G17 again just to blend out any harsh lines. And again, when you do that, it kind of blends some of the pigment away. the pigment really doesn't stick on the eyelid at all. So did just want to mention that. So now I grabbed the color Untamed with a Morphe, I think this is the E17 brush, and I'm popping this on the inner and outer corners again and just a little bit into the crease, nothing too crazy. And again, I run into the exact same problem that I had with Destiny, except it's a lot more noticeable because this color is a lot more saturated, a lot more dark. These shades are extremely pigmented, but I mean, personally, I feel like it does no good to have such a pigmented eyeshadow if it's going to be difficult to blend, or basically not able to blend at all. That makes sense. So you can see when I'm putting this color into the crease, it's kind of getting really patchy. So I went in with that Coastal Scents brush again to blend out any harsh edges. And again, you can see, especially in that inner corner, it kind of just wiped away all that pigmentation. So I was left with like a big gaping hole. And I did continue trying to work with it, and what my final product was like as good as I could get it. It was not getting any better than that, but it definitely wasn't looking good. So now I'm going in with the color Electric on a MAC 242 brush. I did wet this brush because I also find that the duochrome shades are not too pigmented. You definitely have to build them up. You definitely have to use them wet. They're just not the best formula either. So I popped it on my inner, what is that, like my inner third? No, not really my inner third. I popped that right in the center of the lid, you know? And then, of course, I had a whole bunch of fallout because these shadows have a ridiculous amount of fallout. And I was also watching that 70 show, which is why I was looking to the side. So now I'm going in with my concealer. This is my full cover concealer. This is by Makeup Forever. Mine's in the color 7, or shade 7, I guess. And I'm just blending that out with a damp beauty blender like I always do, basically. I really was disappointed in how this eyeshadow look was coming together. I was trying really hard to make it work because, like I said, I had only high expectations for this palette. Every other time that I used it, it was okay. There was just a lot of fallout. So I didn't really expect to run into all these problems this time, if that makes sense. To set my concealed areas, I'm using RCMA No Color Powder and a damp beauty blender again. I am baking today. I do usually bake because I am super duper oily, but you know, in case you care. And I did decide to do a wing liner with this look. I usually wouldn't do a wing liner with a halo eye, but I just felt like I had to do something to kind of distract people from what was going on with my eyeshadow. You can see there's like a big clump of like dark green on my inner corner, and I don't even know how that got there, honestly. I feel like it wasn't that bad, and then it maybe got darker as time passed. I'm not 100% sure, if I'm being honest with you. I am going to use Fascinating Eye Kohl in my waterline, just a white eye pencil by MAC. And I'm just popping it in the waterline just to brighten up the look. I think you guys know how to do this by now. And then I am going to jump back into the palette, of course, to do my lower lash line. I do have to say that my lower lash line, I really didn't have any problems with it. I didn't find there was any patchiness. I didn't find there was any problems really at all. But I did kind of switch up my routine. Usually I go in with a flat definer brush first and then a pencil brush, because I know that these blend out a little bit more not easy. I decided to do the pencil brush first, so I grabbed Edge on a MAC pencil brush and popped that underneath the white liner, and then I went in with Untamed on a flat definer brush and just put that a little bit closer to the liner. I usually, like I said, do this the opposite way, but because I know that these eyeshadows are like not working with me in this look, I decided to do it this way. And then you can see I'm just going in again just to blend out any harsh edges. So I didn't find that I had any problems on my lower lash line, and I think again the reason is because I only use 2 shades. So maybe this is a palette that you have to only use like 1 or 2 shades at a time. I don't know. I feel like that's a really weird thing to have a palette do, if that makes sense. Like, it's a palette of 14 eyeshadows. I don't want to use 1 or 2 eyeshadows. I want to use like 12. So I did put on some Voluminous Carbon Black Mascara by L'Oreal. The lashes I'm using today are Iconics by House of Lashes. I feel like I used to use these a lot more often than I do, so I'm going to kind of force myself to start using them again. I used to be obsessed with House of Lashes, and I have not used them in a very long time. So to contour, I'm using my Lorac Pro Contour Palette. I'm using the color Medium Contour. This brush is the Sigma F35. And I hadn't used this in a while as well. I figured I'd test it out again, and I do enjoy the contour palette. It's definitely not my favorite anymore. It used to be my favorite, but I definitely feel like I have some better ones now. And I think the brush worked out okay, except I did end up having to go in and clean up underneath afterwards. So for bronzer, I used my MAC 135 brush and my Hotel Heiress bronzer by Tarte. Another one of like my Throwback Thursday, but also favorites. I think this color looks so good on my skin tone, and it does have like subtle shimmers in it, but they're extremely subtle, and I feel like they just make you look really healthy. For blush, I use my Nars Yakio brush and my Nars Orgasm blush. That was difficult. That was difficult. Just because I wanted something that was like a peachy pink, but I wanted it to be more subtle, and I do feel like Nars Orgasm is a little bit more on the subtle side. It's not really like attacking you. And then I, of course, cleaned up my contour with some RCMA No Color Powder and the same damp beauty blender from before. And I did contour my nose using the same Lorac Pro Contour Palette and the same color, medium contour. I feel like all this stuff is kind of irrelevant because I feel like this entire video is basically centered around the eyeshadow palette and the eyeshadow look and what went wrong for me. Because I kind of just really want to explain to you guys, like, why this came out so different from my previous two looks, or at least why I think it came out so different. I am highlighting with the Cover FX custom illuminating drops, I think. And mine are, I think, in the color Sunlight. Yeah, they're in the color Sunlight. So I'm just popping that on the top of my cheekbones. And I love these. I actually meant to mention these in my July favorites, but I'm going to end up mentioning them in my next favorites video because I forgot. But I do really love these. I do feel like I have to set them, not because they're not intense enough, but because I'm a psycho and I'm so oily. I get really nervous leaving creams on the skin just like by themselves. So I did end up setting it. I'm using my Morphe M501 brush. And I'm using Makeup Forever Pro Highlighting Duo. Is that what it's called? No, Pro Sculpting Duo. And I'm using the highlighter. Mine is in the color 2. I do believe that these are now sold separately. I don't have the separate ones, but I'm pretty sure that they are sold separately. So I just popped that right on top of where I highlighted with the cream. And then, of course, on the Cupid's bow and on the bridge of the nose. You already know. And then for lip pencil, I'm using Stone by MAC because we are doing like a very cool tone lip. I purchased a whole bunch of Anastasia Beverly Hills lipsticks, and pretty much all the ones I got are cool toned. So the one that I'm using today is the color Dread. I really kind of am obsessed with these really cool tone lipsticks. But I just popped this on, and by the way, I do love the formula of these. And once you got your lipstick on, then this look is complete. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Hi friends, welcome back. So today I'm bringing you guys another video, and this is going to be my July favorites video. And I'm so excited because